Welcome to the Stranger Than Fiction podcast. I'm Chase.
And I'm Adam. And we are here to explore real shit that sounds totally made up. We got a real exciting topic today, one that Chase is particularly passionate about, I think.
I am a believer in this particular theory. I've done my research. There are a lot of interesting theories behind the theory, interesting comments, interesting thoughts from some really legitimate thinkers, legitimate geniuses, if I may.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I've seen. I guess I was surprised to find that there's a number of generally considered smart people that think this is at least plausible. Well, I guess before we get into our topic today, since it's our first episode, maybe we should tell the audience a little bit about ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'll introduce Chase. So Chase and I have been friends for quite a long time. I think it's probably like second grade, something like that.
That's fair.
So kind of old friends. He works in IT, lives in Virginia. He is married to his high school sweetheart, beautiful daughter. But yeah, we've been friends for a long time. You know, even though he stole my school supplies in second grade,
That's the way to a man's heart.
It didn't destroy our friendship, oddly enough. So yeah, he's very friendly, lovable, life of the party guy. Can't do better.
Yeah, and I've spent most of my time in life, as we've been friends, trying to one-up you. I think you have always been the grounded, the more logical, the smarter one in our relationship. So you're down in North Carolina, so not too far from where we're at now in Virginia. He had a son about 2 years older than my daughter. He is married to you dated your wife in high school for the most part.
We met in high school. We didn't date till college.
Okay, sorry. We can edit that part out, I guess. But yeah, lifelong friends, and I'm really happy that we have the chance to talk about some of these topics together because we don't get to talk enough. So this is definitely a nice way of us being able to maintain our relationship 450 miles away or however far we are. Again, you're always the smarter person, so I appreciate you bringing me into this world of this nonsense that I talk to you about, and hopefully we can throw some great ideas off of each other like we always have.
So why don't you go ahead and talk about what that topic is?
We're going to talk about simulation theory. We're going to talk about whether or not this exact world that we are doing this podcast in right now exists in a organic sense, in a are we virtual reality? Is this real life right now? You've seen The Matrix, right?
Yeah, I've seen The Matrix.
We're talking about The Matrix actually in a very simple sense, which is how I have to break down most things. We're talking about The Matrix actually being the real world. Only there isn't a Matrix and a real world. We are The Matrix, and The Matrix is this world that we live in.
All right, so we're going to be talking about The Matrix and stuff like Westworld, those types of concepts is what you're saying. Essentially,
yeah. This theory, this simulation theory, feeds sort of that mindset of, are we in a Matrix-like world?
Are you saying that right now we're not real right now? I'm not real?
We are real. We are real in the sense that, do you believe that we will make it to posthumanism? To be beyond what we are now? Whether that be 100, 1,000, 1,000,000 years into the future.
I think in 100 years, humans will still be here, and we will be more advanced than we are today. Is that what you're asking me?
Do you think that technology will continue to be that of The Sims, and then of the virtual reality that we have today, and then the more engulfing, personalized, for real virtual reality where you cannot distinguish real life between that and the actual game or simulation that you are in?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? What?
I don't think that that we would get to that point. No,
that you can't distinguish virtual reality or a alternate reality versus real life. You don't think we'll get to that point?
Not for a prolonged period.
Well, so Nick Bostrom, he's a famous English University of Oxford philosopher. He had a theory back in 2003, I think, and wrote a very scientific paper with a lot of math and physics behind it and things like that basically said, if our current status or somebody in the future reaches a post-human state and the technology continues to advance at the same rate that it is advancing at now, those post-humans will be very, very, very inclined to create what he calls an ancestry simulation. So they're basically creating a simulation because technology and power and everything else has gotten so strong that they can create a world of their ancestors or somebody like their ancestors.
Because they have nothing better to do than sit around and wonder, what did they do 1,000 years ago?
Why wouldn't you? So
what's the point? What are you going to get out of it? What would be the benefit of doing that?
Part of that,
especially such a long simulation.
Well,
so you're saying that everything, all of recorded history, is a simulation.
Let's table that for a second, because I am a believer of a alternate theory as to why they would want to do this outside of an ancestry simulation. But let's hit on the ancestry simulation for a minute, because I do feel like that is the genesis of what we're talking about, and no pun intended in the genesis of the ancestry theory. But so are you? If this is 50 years from now, and we have the power to be able to power millions of supercomputers all at once, and are able to create these simulations ourselves, do you feel as if we would be inclined as a society or as humans to create these simulations based off of the fact that you said that we can?
Well, I didn't say that we could. I just don't see what the benefit would be, especially such a prolonged simulation.
So you don't think we would, if technology got to the point where it said, yes, we can do this, and everything would feel like real life to the people inside of the simulation, you don't feel as a society we would be inclined to?
So are you saying that we're all people somewhere with a headgear on living a virtual life? You just said that we're all people in this simulation. But what you're saying is, I think that I'm not a person, that I'm just a little couple lines of code.
We are exactly that. There is nobody necessarily sitting with headsets on as we do with virtual reality or augmented reality now, right? It is so advanced that you sort of code this. The supercomputers are so advanced that you code this and you let it live, and you can observe whatever you want. Essentially, yes, a 15-year-old in the future in their garage can create a world in which they can observe, they can create code to manipulate it however they would like.
So you think a 15-year-old is responsible for creating our world?
I don't think that's necessarily the fact. I think...
Who do you think it is? You think it's a big alien with a green head?
I think it is a post-human society in which we have advanced so far that we feel the need to look back and say, hey, what is happening?
All the history books burned up. It's like Fahrenheit 451.
No, why would you have to burn up the history books?
Why would you? Why? I still don't understand why you would need to do this. You have history books.
You don't need to do it, though. But why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want to do it? If you had the technology to do it, why wouldn't you do it? We have to make some assumptions. We have to make, if you're going to believe the simulation theory, or at least have an inclination that this theory may not be just a theory, you have to make some assumptions that technology has gotten to the point that this could happen. And if you look at the technological progress that we have made in just 50 years, if you look at 1,000 years from now, and 100,000 years from now, and 1,000,000 years from now, and we've collected the energy of the sun, i.e. a Dyson sphere. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Dyson sphere, but if we do get to a Dyson sphere where we can start to collect all of this energy from all of the sun, and we can start to create these supercomputers and all of this stuff, and then the processing power and the memory all becomes to that point.
I mean, I'm not sure I agree with you, but have you ever played a video game?
I have played a video game,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever played a game like an open world game? Say like Elder Scrolls?
Sure.
Or Zelda,
yeah.
Breath of the Wild.
Sure, okay, yeah.
Which is a great game, by the way.
Okay.
You should check it out.
All right.
In this large open world game, say there's mountains.
Okay.
You typically have a world, mountains on the edge. You go towards the end of the map. You climb that mountain in the distance. And then you start to get towards the end, you get like an invisible barrier that you can't go past. Or you just fall into oblivion, and game over, you die. So if this is all some big simulation, some big video game, where is that end and why haven't we hit it yet?
So the other part of that theory is, and this isn't from the Bostrom paper in 2003, this is just from other people's conjecture as to what would happen with that is we can fix glitches. Every computer program, every piece of software has glitches. The fact that that supercomputer or however many supercomputers are running this simulation, we also have the director, I think Bostrom calls it in his paper, the director of this simulation has the ability to create memories, to erase memories, to fix the glitch faster than we can keep up with fixing the glitch. So if we do get to a point where we begin to realize that this is a simulation and that the creators of this simulation or the director has made a flaw in the world that he or she has created, they have the ability to fix that glitch, erase the memory of ever noticing that glitch from its occupants, and move on in real time without it ever being noticed. So they can create world, and that's the argument with subatomic particles and stuff like that. As we discover these, as we push the limit of physics and things like that, and as we get to be able to view these subatomic particles and the world that we're not used to viewing, that can all be inserted in real time as it needs to be to create this to keep the illusion alive. So the supercomputer that's also running our day-to-day also has the ability to fill in the gaps that needs to be filled in. The collective memory of everybody in this universe is being calculated by this supercomputer. It's filling in everything that it needs to fill in order to keep this simulation believing that it is present-day real life.
So, I mean, a simulation is a simplified version of reality. I mean, that's how they exist today, at least. So, why all the complexity? I just don't understand the point. What would be the point and the benefit of someone?
Well, this world, this simulation that you and I live in currently, and everybody else lives in currently, is not complicated. You're absolutely right. We are a simplified version of the current.
The world is simple?
Comparatively to 1,000,000 years from now?
You don't know that. You don't know what the world is like 1,000,000 years from now.
But if we're going off of the ancestry theory, they are running the simulation as if the world... They are viewing the world as it existed 1,000,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago. So yes, it probably was a simple... And it was a much simpler world because we can't process this simulation the way that they can. So yes, it is a simpler world. It's a different world. It's not necessarily... A simulation, by definition, is, yes, probably exactly as you said it was. But they are viewing, they have the ability to watch their future. And yes, the history books, as you said, exist. But if you had the ability to create those visuals for those history books, why wouldn't you? And to have those occupants and that history be playing out in real time without those people ever knowing that it's being played out the way that it's being played out.
So you're talking about the Truman Show?
Essentially, yeah. The Truman Show is a simulation inside of a simulation, really, if you really think about it. But yes, it is essentially...
Because we're a simulation and it's a fake simulation inside of our simulation.
Yeah, we're watching a movie inside of the simulation. So yes, it's a simulation inside of a simulation. But the inherent flaw of the Truman Show is that it was a simulation created by the simulation without any... This is where we're getting into, we're not scientists, we're not mathematicians, we're not physicists, we aren't philosophers. It was created in a world that was naive to it being simulated. So you don't necessarily know what that simulation looks like, and you haven't created those laws and things like that to make sure that the inhabitants of that simulation don't know that they're in a simulation. So in the Truman Show, using that as an example, the only way that you didn't know that you were not in a simulated world, and I quote that, is Truman runs into the wall at the end of the world that he exists in. We can't do that. We have physics. We have mathematical principles, physical principles that says we will never run into that wall, that we cannot reach the point of that wall. We will never find out that we are in a simulation because of the physics that are in place.
I think the computing power that would be required to do that would be just impossible. But anyway, let me ask you let's talk a little bit about some of these famous people that actually think this is plausible. I wouldn't say they believe it. Some of the names that I've seen are folks like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
Pretty...
Brian Greene, the famous physicist.
Can you talk a little bit maybe about what they've said on this topic?
Well, they put it into a much more, and again, I am no genius. They put it into a much more mathematical factor than I would. I want to believe. I want to believe. I've done my research. I want to believe that this is what's happening. Elon Musk, I think, says, well, it's a 1 in a billion chance that we aren't living inside of a simulation. And if you look at Nick Bostrom's paper from 2013, he lays out the logic statement that says, if this and this, then you must believe we live in a simulation. Or if this and not this, then the probability of us living in a simulation is very high. So you have to look at it from a philosophical perspective, and I think that's what